there's a connection that's at the very back of the tractor. Remember I listed off that it actually had 4 plugs on that main harness to actually hook up at the back of the tractor. So with that, I have an image of it up here. What I'm mostly pointing out to you there is that there was a few years there that the WATEC connections are all the same. So they are all tower pin on one side and all shroud on the other, which then there's the ability to hook it up incorrect. So the whole point of why I want to show you that is to give you the awareness that they are out there. And I have noted it several times, I guess, through last year and this year, and as they come up, one thing I'd probably recommend is that you simply unhook the repin them and put the covers on the opposite way, so there's no chance of hooking them up incorrect. So it's something that we had in as an engineering change for this year, but the engineering change was even greater, so we actually went right away from the SeedMaster touchscreen into operating with the cruiser monitors. So mostly want to point that out to you guys. So the main thing that we're looking at there is that remember, white is ground, and basically nothing works without ground. One of the 4-pin plugs has a ground wire going through it, so even if they're plugged in incorrectly, it's not going to make a difference because nothing's actually going to operate. So it's something to keep in mind, that you have a customer that phones in and says, I just got stuck, I hooked everything up, and now it doesn't, I have no functions within that drill. It doesn't seem to operate at all. Get them to slow down for 1 second, go to the back of the tractor, and just double check that those WATEC connections are all hooked together correctly, and so that the colors are going through the plug. So white to white, red to red, black to black, so on and so forth. So something that is a common question, so within that SeedMaster touchscreen. So now another one that comes up within the older model, so 2011, 12, and well, basically it'll be most of 13, we'll have this setup of 2 connections. And what it is a compressor hookup. And initially, so that we can label it out for you guys, this top 4-pin is actually the power and ground for the actual compressor. So our zone command, our auto zone command, utilizes air to disengage the actual zones to shut off the meters. And off of this plug, what you see is red and brown. Those are actually both soldered together with one 30 amp fuse at the end, which connects directly to the battery. And then there's the green and yellow. Those are both grounds. So those actually have 2 ring terminals, and they connect both to ground. So I want to let you know that it does have a 4-pin plug, and that it will have 3 connections on the end. And now the 2 ring terminals without the fuse are both ground, and those will be both yellow and green. And brown and red are soldered together into one single power lead with a 30 amp fuse. So it is kind of an oddity to what we do for the most part. So it's something that I always try and describe out. Why they are doubled up is just for the overall current draw through that system. So from there, this little 2-pin, because we know that we're connecting directly to battery for that compressor, we have to have a way to actually make sure it turns on and off. So that 2-pin plug there is connected into the Raven harness, so that when you power up the Viper Pro monitor, it then activates a relay to allow the compressor to run. So this is the relay activation plug. So when you power up the Viper, it powers up that plug, which then sends power through to the relay, so that that compressor can actually use that full tractor battery power to operate the compressor. So in 2014, we made a change, and I want to kind of point that out to you, that it is an available update. So if you go to your tank parts manual, So there's a tank parts manual, page 26. It shows us a little better diagram of what this next one is, which is the actual main harness for our new style compressors. So when we look at that connection here down in the bottom left, it's much the same as what you'd see on a winch or on an actual quick charge system on a trailer. This style here, the heavier wire 2-pin, is replacing that 4-pin Waytech style. So inside that actual diagram, you can see that it's going directly back to battery. It does have a fuse, which is a 60 amp fuse, and from there it goes out to the plug that you'll see as it goes around, and then it goes through to an actual solenoid. So instead of utilizing an actual relay, we're actually using a solenoid now, and that solenoid is activated still with that 2-pin plug, so that when you activate or turn on your actual Viper Pro, if you read there, it says switch power. So it creates power for that solenoid to send that current through from battery to the compressor. And then at that point, if you look, it also labeled one has a pressure switch, so it knows how to turn that compressor on and off. So the pressure switch is still the same as what we operated with. And at the end of the day, we'll go through more of how this is operating, but I want to make sure you guys know that we do need a main power source for operating that compressor. And at that point, it's the only way to get air, which is required for auto zone command. The cable that's going around, it also then has this fuse. I just want to show you what this fuse looks like. It'll be right by the battery. And again, we want to make sure you know that the old style was a 30 amp, the new style is a 60 amp. And that is necessary to have that fuse by the battery to make sure that if that cable was to rub through and arc out or something on the actual tractor, we want to make sure it'll pop the fuse right by the battery. So we want to make sure there's a place to break that power. From there, the last connection that you'll see at the back of the tractor as far as wiring is the CAN system, which you can see a few different style plugs right here. So same as what you guys would be typically used to for most other styles of equipment. So again, something to keep in mind, always make sure they're clean, properly connected, and that you know, the more you look after them, the longer they'll last. So very important to make sure we have clean, proper connections. So for everything operating within 2014 SM14, you will only have these two connections at the back of the tractor. So when we were with the touchscreen and stuff like that, the SeedMaster touchscreen, we gained those extra plugs. We had a little more connections involved with the older style compressor, and with that it simplifies it a lot.